Four young girls, a quiet Friday night, and a fire that changed a city forever. 30 years later, the question still echoes: who really killed them? On the night of December 6th, 1991, inside a small yogurt shop in Austin, Texas, four teenage girls were brutally murdered. It was a case that shocked the nation, tore families apart, and haunted investigators for decades. From botched interrogations to questionable confessions, the truth has remained tangled in confusion and heartbreak. This is not just a story about a crime. It's a story about four lives lost, a community in pain, and the fight for justice that still continues today. This is the story of the yogurt shop murders. Before the tragedy, they were just girls, daughters, sisters, best friends, full of life, dreams, and plans for the future. Jennifer Harbison, 17, was the responsible one. She was mature beyond her years and had a deep love for agriculture. As a member of her school's FFA, Future Farmers of America, Jennifer had big dreams of studying animal science and working with livestock. She was the kind of teen other parents trusted. On that Friday night, she was working a shift at the yogurt shop, saving up for her future, doing what she always did, being dependable. Her younger sister, Sarah Harbison, was only 15, a freshman. Sarah adored her big sister. She was bubbly, curious, and still discovering who she wanted to become. That night, she had simply come along to keep Jennifer company after a long day of shopping. Just two sisters hanging out like they always did, unaware it would be their last evening together. Eliza Thomas, 17, was Jennifer's co-worker and close friend. She was funny, sweet, and always had a way of making people laugh. Her father was a former police officer, and she had grown up with a strong sense of right and wrong. That night, she was doing her usual shift, helping close the store, thinking of college, maybe even what movie she'd watch the next day. No one ever imagined the store would be the last place she'd be seen alive. And then there was Amy Ayers, just 13, the youngest of them all. Amy was a bright, kind-hearted middle schooler. That evening, she tagged along with Sarah, maybe for frozen yogurt, maybe just to feel a little grown up. Amy loved animals, especially horses, and had a spark in her eyes that made her family believe she'd grow up to do something great. She wasn't supposed to be there long. She just never came back. These four girls weren't just names in a cold case. They were loved. They had favorite songs, inside jokes, dreams they hadn't even said out loud yet. And they were taken far too soon, in a way too cruel for anyone to fully comprehend. Their story didn't begin with tragedy. It began with laughter, school dances, siblings arguing over clothes, and summer goals. And that's how we should remember them first. It was a Friday evening in Austin, Texas, the kind of night that feels ordinary: cool air, quiet streets, the hum of life winding down for the weekend. Inside a small strip mall just off Anderson Lane, I Can't Believe It's Yogurt was open for business. The warm lights glowed through the windows. Teenagers chatted behind the counter, wiping down tables, tossing napkins in the trash. The scent of vanilla yogurt and cleaning spray filled the air. Jennifer Harbison and Eliza Thomas were working the closing shift. They'd done it many times before: the rhythm of wiping machines, checking cash, locking the doors. Jennifer was steady, focused. Eliza brought the laughter. Around 9:30 p.m., Jennifer's younger sister, Sarah, arrived with her friend, Amy Ayers, who was just 13. They had been out shopping earlier. The plan was simple. The girls would hang out at the yogurt shop until Jennifer's shift was over. Then the four of them would head home together. Just another Friday night. Nothing seemed unusual. Customers came and went. Some remembered the girls smiling, joking. Others said they looked relaxed, like four friends just passing the time. By 10:42 p.m., the shop was officially closed. The open sign was turned off. The front door locked. The cleanup had started, but no one saw what happened next. Sometime between 10:45 and just after midnight, something terrible took place inside that small yogurt shop, something no one could have imagined. A fire was reported around 11:47 p.m. by a patrolling police officer who noticed smoke. The fire department arrived quickly. When they put out the flames, what they found inside stunned the city. The girls, all four, were gone, murdered. It didn't feel real. The shop was a place where people brought their kids for frozen yogurt. A safe space, clean, friendly, never violent. But that night, everything changed. The next morning, families waited by phones that never rang. Parents drove in silence to police stations. The news traveled fast, but understanding came slow. "We couldn't believe it," one officer later said. "Not just the crime, but who it happened to. 4 girls, teenagers, kids." People began leaving flowers outside the store. Strangers wept as if they'd lost daughters of their own. The whole city went quiet, like someone had stolen the light from it. And from that day forward, nothing in Austin felt quite the same again. The morning after the fire, the sun rose over Austin, but it didn't feel like a normal day. The city was heavy, silent. People who drove past the strip malls slowed down. Some parked, some cried. News vans started to arrive. Police officers had taped off the yogurt shop. Inside, the scene was horrifying. Firefighters had found the girls' bodies stacked in the back of the store, burned and bound. It wasn't just a fire. It was murder, a brutal one. Detectives were called in immediately, but from the start there were problems. The fire had destroyed important evidence. The water used to put out the flames had washed away footprints. The heat had damaged fingerprints and other clues. It was like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces melted. "This is one of the worst crime scenes I've ever worked," one officer said. "And the victims, they were just kids." The families were in pieces. Jennifer and Sarah's mother, who had just dropped the girls off the night before, collapsed when she heard the news. Amy's parents couldn't believe it. She was only 13. Eliza's family said she had dreams of going to college. The city was in mourning. A candlelight vigil was held. Thousands came. People brought teddy bears, cards, and flowers. The front of the yogurt shop became a memorial. It stayed like that for weeks. Rumors began to swirl. Some said it was a robbery gone wrong. Others whispered it was something darker, maybe a planned attack. But no one knew for sure, and the police had very few leads. There was pressure, a lot of it, from the public, from the media, from families begging for justice. Investigators began questioning everyone. They followed hundreds of tips. They looked into past customers, ex-employees, even local troublemakers. Some leads seemed promising. Most led nowhere. Months passed, then years. At one point, the police arrested 2 teenage boys. Then 2 more. Confessions were made, but there was no physical evidence, and the stories kept changing. Years later, those convictions were overturned. "It felt like every time we got close," said a former detective, "the truth slipped away again." Still, the families didn't give up. They kept pushing. They wanted answers. They wanted justice. Not just for their daughters, but for the whole city that still felt the wound. And so the question remained: who murdered Jennifer, Sarah, Amy, and Eliza? And why? Years passed. The city of Austin tried to move on, but the pain from the yogurt shop murders never really went away. The families waited. People whispered. Some were scared. Some were angry. Everyone just wanted to know the truth. Who did this? In 1999, almost 8 years later, the police made a shocking announcement. They had arrested 4 young men. Their names were Robert Springsteen, Michael Scott, Morris Pierce, and Forrest Wellborn. They had all been teenagers back in 1991, around the same age as the victims. The police said the men had confessed. At first, it seemed like the case was finally solved. People breathed a sigh of relief. News reporters spread the story fast, justice at last. But then, things got strange. The confessions didn't match each other. The stories kept changing, and most of the things they said didn't match the crime scene at all. Even worse, there was no physical evidence, no DNA, no fingerprints, nothing that could link any of them to the yogurt shop. One of the men, Maurice Pierce, never confessed. He said he was innocent from the start. "I didn't do this," he told reporters. "I wasn't there. They're making a mistake." But two of the others, Michael and Robert, had confessed during long police interviews. Very long, hours and hours without lawyers. Some of those interviews weren't even recorded. People started to ask, were these real confessions? Or were they pressured into saying what the police wanted to hear? The trials began. Michael Scott and Robert Springsteen were both found guilty. They were sent to prison for life. But the questions didn't stop. Years later, in 2008, new DNA tests were done. The results were shocking. The DNA found at the crime scene did not match any of the four men. Not one of them. Lawyers took the case back to court. The judge looked at the facts, the DNA, the strange confessions, the lack of evidence. The decision came down. Convictions overturned, charges dropped, the men were released, the families were heartbroken all over again. "It feels like we're back at the beginning," said one mother, "like our girls were murdered and then forgotten." The city was confused, angry, tired. For almost 20 years they had believed the killers were behind bars. Now, no one knew who did it. But the case wasn't closed. Even today, the yogurt shop murders remain one of the most painful, unsolved crimes in Texas history. For Amy, Eliza, Sarah, and Jennifer, four bright lights that were snuffed out. Too soon their loved ones carried on. But they were never the same. "You don't move on from something like this," said Eliza's father. "You carry it, every single day." Amy's parents became activists. They pushed for better laws, better victim support, and better forensic tools. They turned their grief into something powerful, but the pain was always just beneath the surface. Jennifer's younger brother said he grew up in a house that was too quiet. "She was my best friend, my protector. When she died, I didn't just lose a sister, I lost my childhood." Even the city itself seemed to mourn. That little yogurt shop, once filled with laughter, music, and sweet frozen treats, was turned into a quiet, empty lot. A memorial. People left flowers there, notes, candles. Some still do. The community tried to heal. But every false lead, every overturned conviction, every cold anniversary brought the pain flooding back. In 2010, Robert and Michael, the two men who were once convicted, were officially cleared. No new suspects were ever arrested. The DNA found at the scene, still unmatched. "We're waiting on science now," said a detective quietly. "DNA will give us the truth. Someday." But as years turned to decades, the hope began to feel like a whisper. And yet, the families wait. Every birthday, every Christmas, every anniversary of December 6th, they remember four teenage girls full of life, laughter, and dreams who went to work one night and never came home. The city remembers too, because even in the silence of an unsolved crime, one truth remains. They mattered. Their lives mattered. And justice is still owed. Some stories don't have a happy ending. Some wounds never fully heal. But remembering, that's how we keep them close. Amy, Eliza, Sarah, Jennifer. Four names, four girls. Gone too soon. They were daughters, sisters, best friends. Girls with dreams, laughter, and futures that should have stretched on forever. And though justice still waits, their memory hasn't faded, not in the hearts of their families, not in the quiet corners of Austin, and not in the voices still demanding answers. If you're hearing this story today, you're part of that memory now. Every time their story is told, they live on. We may not know who took their lives, but we do know what they left behind: love, strength, and a city that refuses to forget. So tonight, light a candle in your heart for them. Say their names, because sometimes remembering is the strongest form of justice we have left.